Alright, let's do a quick little Fleabay edition today. I've already kind of perused this a little bit, so hopefully we can move along pretty quickly. We are going to look at Atlas shapers and Atlas mills, mainly because there's a fair amount of machines, complete machines here listed. So, first one up is a Atlas metal shaper pre-owned, of course pre-owned, $1299.99 in free local pickup, and I think all of these are free local pickup for the most part. This is a seller that's got a lot of feedback, and from reading the description, I'm going to say he does estate stuff probably. Shaper came out of an estate auction, used condition, repainted by previous owner, comes as pictured, motor looks to be a replacement, no on-off switch, plugs in and goes, comes with original stand, overall great shape, great shape. Okay, let's just look at the big pictures and we'll just quickly look at these a little bit. This actually looks to be a pretty complete machine, other than the stuff that's been done to it. Probably a good candidate for a restoration. It does have the original legs underneath it. I'm going to assume this is the original board underneath it too. Got the guards on it. This plate's been blocked off, which was your motor switch. Looks to be complete. It's got a original style tool holder, and picture of the big guard missing the knob, which if you buy a replacement guard from me, you're missing the knob too, so it's not a big deal at this point in time. Can't really tell. This is the later model feed mechanism, so this is a later machine anyway. I believe this is a 7B. I'm pretty sure it is. I didn't look that close when I was looking at it, but it looks to be a complete machine. Like I say, you got all the guards. I don't see anything broken on it. Now, I did notice this table, this probably had an original vise on it, because otherwise coming out of a state, looking at the way everything else is pretty much got that nice little brown patina on it, I'm wondering if this got pulled off and is being sold separately or was sold separately, something like that, other than that. But this is a 7B. There's our support foot shaft and the mechanism to lock it in place. So this looks to be a complete machine. I don't have any real gripes with this machine. Yeah, everything looks, pretty good on it for something that's, we're going to say 50 plus years old. 5767 is the serial number on it, 7B. But it has been repainted, of course. But, this would be a good candidate for a restoration, it looks like. You don't know how well it runs or what it does, but probably a decent machine. Is it going to be worth, there's a better picture of your original tool holder. Somebody's crappy motor that you're going to electrocute yourself on because it doesn't have the plug on there, and you're not going to take the time to fix that. I'd do something with that motor, but otherwise, good base machine. It looks like pretty complete. Somebody that wants to spend some time redoing that, you'd probably have a pretty decent machine. So, is it worth $1,300? Yeah, I don't know. If you're in that area, I think I still think that's a little bit high. But then we have other ones that are going to be higher yet too. If we go down two more, here's a vintage Atlas metal shaper, quarter horse, 110 volt single phase with vise and stand. They want $1,290 or best offer. Now this is an interesting machine here. What it says is, and this is from, I think these are resellers, a lot of feedback. Description. This is a great condition metal shaper. The unit does not have a data plate that can be located. It's got something, I think it came out of Canada. We believe this is an Atlas shaper, most likely a 7B, but this cannot be confirmed. More specs below. Unit appears to be missing one guard. Vise is included along with stand as pictured. Okay, so let's pick this machine apart, because this deserves to be picked apart. These guys selling used machines, they should know better of what they're looking at here. So, let's see, let's go in and zoom on these pictures, and we're just going to look at a couple of them. Let's look at this machine. That tool holder, somebody's abomination. I don't know who that is, what that is. That is a original vise, although it looks like somebody's maybe added jaws or done something to it. Maybe not, but that's kind of hokey. Now, when you look at this is not a 7B. This is a Model 7. We just looked at the one that had the support foot underneath it. Down through the center of the box, you don't see any support bar going. You don't have a bar across the bottom of the the base. You know, in the front there's that 1.5 inch probably wide 2-inch strip that runs across it. That foot slides back and forth across. The table's angled. You know, anybody that knows anything about these machines, that researches them even a little bit, knows this is an early 7 machine. When you look at the feed mechanism there on the side, and this is where it'd be an advantage to be looking at the bigger pictures because we can run an arrow over them, but you can go back and look at these where that power feed mechanism that runs the table across, that's the early style. This will be a cast iron model. Now they did use this cast iron feed mechanism on some of the early 7Bs, but later on they went to the cast Zamac, or they were a cast Zamac housing and everything that goes along with them. Dead giveaway between the, you know, this will tell you the difference between an early and a later model machine is if it's got the cast iron housing for that feed mechanism, why it's an earlier machine. If it's got the Zamac housing, why it's a later model machine. But no foot underneath the base of it identifies it right off the bat as a 7. The 7s are not as rigid. There's no support there, and they will flex under working movement. Missing the large guard. That pulley on the top is not even close to being right. They put some sort of a just pulley on there. That should be a 4-step pulley, and 4-step and a 5th step for the brake to go along there. And what they've done is, from looking at this picture, they've taken their picture and then they put a black background around the back of it, so you can't see everything, or you can't see what's in the background. The motor's been replaced. I believe that. I don't think that's a factory Atlas motor, just from looking at it. Switch plate's a replacement of some sort. You can see the little sticky thing on there. Second picture, it's missing the door on the side. That guard, a little bit of difference in color. That's probably a replacement guard, I'm guessing, but I don't know. That may be an original Atlas motor, but it doesn't. It's in pretty ragged shape from looking at it. The oil tray is there. I didn't point it out on the other side of the oil tray, but not only are you missing the guard, you're missing the hinge that attaches the large guard, which mounts to the bottom of the oil tray on the other side. And those are the main things with that machine. Yeah, there, if you look at the back, you see that little stub sticking down there. That's a little boss that's cast into the bottom of that oil tray, and there should be a hinge bracket that mounts on the bottom of there. So not a real desirable machine. From a collector standpoint, it probably is a desirable machine, but from a functional standpoint, this is not really what you're looking for to put in your shop. I would say this machine's probably worth about $700 or $800 on a good day, is all the more I'd be given for it if I was there to pick it up, and that's probably more than I'd get. To me, that's more like a $500 machine. So, you know, do your own research, decide if that's something you want, but to me, that's not a machine I want in my shop at all. And as we go on down, I don't really see anything else. There's a 7B shaper tool holder, an internal tool holder. They want $97.50 for, and $9 shipping. This is the internal tool holder that I showed you how to build on your own, you know, and I've got these available in my store for $50 in shipping. So you can give 50 from me, or you can give almost 100 in shipping from $97.50. Now this is from a seller that's been around. He's got enough feedback. He knows exactly what he's doing. The description says no markings is all it says on the description. Well, it's because it's a homemade internal tool holder, you know. So to me, we should know better on these. You know, he should be telling you that this is a homemade tool holder, even though you can tell. But this looks, like I say, virtually the same as the ones I showed you how to build and the ones that I offer for half the money. Pays your money, takes your chances. Other than that, it's the same old shit down here. Large pulley guards, they're wanting almost $300 for, $279.95 and $43 shipping. Another one, $279 and $15 shipping. You know, they're way out of sight. And there's some stuff that's being parted out. Of course, I would urge, unless you just have to have it, sit back and watch these parts, because eventually they're going to come down. If we stop buying them for the astronomical prices they want, why, the prices are going to come down on these. Now, here is a shop-made internal keyway tool with an 1/8 inch bit. They want $125 and $8 shipping. I have one very similar to this, and we'll just look at the one big picture. I'm not going to go through. They've got dimension pictures and stuff. This is from a seller that parts out machines. This is from somebody that will cheat you every chance they get, I think. This fits right into the tool holder, replaces the complete lantern tool post that goes on the shaper. This locks right in there with this bolt. I have one that came with my machine that's very similar to this. You can build these in your own shop. They're easy. You know, if you've got a lathe, you can crank one of these out, throw some threads on it. Now, the one thing I will say that is a error in doing this tool this way, and you can accomplish the same thing with a little more work probably, but you end up with a better product. They've just taken and tapered this whole end. Well, you still only got this much clearance along the bottom of it, assuming this is the bottom. Why, as you cut through a keyway, now granted you may not have to cut that full length, you may just be cutting the gear and only go to there, but to get that to clear going all the way through, you've got to extend your tool bit out. You're much better off to have it being straight all the way out if you have the room for it, and if you don't have the room for it, I would say you're better off to offset them and relieve the top portion of it and still leave it straight along the bottom, because you're losing rigidity by doing that, plus you're losing clearance. You're having to extend that small tool bit down farther to get the same clearance for it to scrape past this distance or this diameter. So just something to note. You know, are they worth 125 bucks? If you look at the time invested to build them, yeah, they are. But if you look at your time spent enjoying your day in the shop, yeah, throw you this piece of stock in there with a nut on it and build your own. There's no sense in giving 125. There again, they're parting out crap and trying to get rid of what they can't sell for anything else. You know, it's like there's somebody born every minute. There's a sucker born every minute type of thing. So there's some other parts and stuff here I'm not going to go through. Like I say, unless you actually have to have something under a time crunch to get something done, either build your own or sit back and watch, because this stuff's going to come down. They're going to be there cheaper. These astronomical amounts, you know, $250 for the small guards. And I think I had seen someplace here somebody had the small guard listed for sale too. Let's go on down. They've got two big ones for $279. I thought I'd looked at a smaller one while I was perusing this earlier. Yeah, 7B metal shaper pulley guard, S7 $249 or best offer, and $19 shipping. I sell a replacement for these for $140 and shipping. You know, so, and this is there again, sellers parting these out, trying to get big bucks for them. And we've got a couple of new sellers that are coming around. They're trying to do the same thing. Maybe their prices aren't starting out astronomically high as like some of these other guys have had, like this $249 for this guard. That's stupid. That's not even a wise business decision on anybody's part. You know, I mean, why would you spend $250 for this piece of crap? It's a standard 7B guard. You know, there's nothing. I mean, yeah, they're harder to come by, but if you can buy a replacement that I say is just as good as the originals for $100 less, why are you going to spend that for this piece of shit? Yeah, junk. You know, if they'd price that at $150 and $19 shipping, that's going to be fair for that part, for what the market will bear. But $100 more than that, no. They're just trying to screw you there. The rest of this is just the same old junk that they're trying to get way too much money for. You know, parts that are busted that they're wanting premium for, saying, oh, it's an easy repair. You know, and with that I'm referring to that oil pan that's been out here forever for $50 that the boss has busted off on the side of it that holds the guards on. Just stupid. Just stupid. Okay, we're not going to spend too much time. Let's go right on to milling machines. What do we have? And I'm going to skip all this crap that, you know, we've either looked at before or is just crap, this 3D printed junk and things like this. Now here's a MFB horizontal mill with vertical head pre-owned, $3,000 or best offer. I'll say right up front, and this guy's got a fair amount of feedback. The sum of the parts may very well be worth it, because part of what they're offering here I don't follow at all, and you know, it may be fairly valuable, but when we're looking at Atlas stuff, and that's what we want is Atlas stuff, this is way out of line. Description: with a rare Rusnock vertical milling head. Now, I do not follow the Rusnock milling heads at all. I don't know what they're going for. I don't consider that, you know, to me, these, even if they made them to fit, to me, this is too big an attachment to go on an Atlas mill. Belts and bearings have been belt and bearings in the head have been replaced. Not aware of any issues with this machine, just do not use it much. Motor upgraded to a 3/4 horse, but also have the original motor. All knobs and handles are original. Unit sits on a table with cast iron legs. Included is the mill, the Rosnock vertical milling head, the stand, miscellaneous tools, the original or miscellaneous tooling, the original motor, and various documents. So let's look at the big pictures and just see what we see, and if you're interested in this, you can go back and look at it yourself. Got a big obnoxious motor on here. You know, I like upgraded motors, but going up to a 3/4 horsepower motor when these originally came with a 1/4 horse is way overkill in my opinion. But nonetheless, now the first thing we're going to look at is these cast iron legs. Comes with cast iron legs. Well, we get all excited about having original cast iron legs, except these are not original. I speculate these look like a Logan, set of Logan legs underneath here, and they've just been bolted to a tabletop of some sort, whether it's plywood, whether, you know, I don't know what it is, don't care what it is, but anyway, they've just been bolted up to that. So in my opinion, yeah, you got a set of cast iron legs, yeah, they're going to be functional. It's nothing that adds to the value of this machine as far as I'm concerned at all. The overarm casting here is not original to this machine. You can tell that just by looking at the difference in color on these. So let's go through. I don't know what else I saw on this. Looks like it's got a drawbar. Original vise. Got the handle to go with it. I don't know that there was anything that really stood out to me on this machine, other than the fact that it was it had the vertical head, which I don't think is appropriate for the machine, even though it may fit and it may be very useful. To me, that's not something I'm even looking for when I'm looking at Atlas machines, and the stand is not original. So basically, even if it is in very good condition, it's still just a basic Atlas MFB, I believe is what this model is. There's nothing spectacular here, so that makes it a $1,200 machine on a good day. On a good day. Good one. Later model machine, because it's got the 3-step pulleys here and the larger belts on it. You can't tell from the picture, that may or may not be the original lock knob. Now see, the earlier MFs, it did not have this knob at all. There was a detent in there that held it in its different positions, which didn't do it exceptionally well, at least on my machine. The later ones had this spring-loaded knob or spring-loaded plunger that had, I think, probably a little more positive lock in there. But they had the same style of knob like you find on the doors for the guards and that type of thing. So got a bolt here as an adjustment. You know, it's kind of it's just a standard machine. There's nothing here that makes it worth $3,000. MFB, I can't really tell what, if I'd go back and really look, I could probably see what the serial number is, but I can't. And you know, there's your Rosnock head. There again, I know nothing about them. I don't, you know, that looks like an awful big piece of equipment to be mounting on a fairly light duty Atlas head. You know, I think these are more appropriate for larger machines. So now the other thing I did notice on this is tooling with this is, you know, I'm not really sure why you need a gear puller there. Maybe there's some use for that I'm not aware of. But anyway, when you look at these cutters right here, these are going to probably work fine on that Rosnock head with a arbor that fits those. These are going to be too big for on this Atlas, for on a standard Atlas arbor coming out of the main arbor. Those are not going to work. This gear may be appropriate, and this one may fit on there, but the rest of these gears that are huge and grinding heads and stuff, they're not even going to clear the overarm arbor, and they may or may not give you any clearance at all to cut them with just a standard arbor that doesn't use the overarm support. You know, so I don't know. To me, there's a lot of parts here that may be appropriate for that Rosnock head, but they're not appropriate for the Atlas machine at all. Original motor, you know, so you do have the original motor going back on it if you choose to put it, assuming it runs. You know, otherwise, why was it replaced? Why would you pull it off to put another one on there? So, worth $3,000? Not to me. You know, $1,200 machine on a really, really good day. So there was that one. Right below it, we've got a MSC milling machine with stand and extras, $21.49. So, seller that I think is a junk dealer, estate dealer, whatever whatever you know you want to call them. But I think this is a estate sale seller, a yard sale purveyor, whatever you want to call them. Junk dealer. Up for sale is a good working Atlas milling machine, MFC, 115 volts. Okay, let's look at the big pictures on this, although I don't know that we can see with the big pictures. But there again, you can go back and look. Got an overarm support. I will say, a little bit of difference in color between the guards and the head here. Now, I may just be seeing that in the pictures. That may not be true at all, but that's kind of the way it looks to me. These are not original handles at all. These are, four-spoke, probably a cast iron handle. They're not original to this machine. Let's see if something shows us something a little bit better here. The kick out is, I believe this is one that's got a shop-made kick out. I think I saw pictures of it, but I could be mistaken. This handle is wrong. That's not an original handle. That looks to be an original handle, although this one I don't think so, and the hand wheels themselves are not correct for the machine. Replacement motor. That's not an original motor. What else do we have here? And there's a bunch of junk with this machine. A bunch of literal junk. And I say junk, it may have applications someplace, but it doesn't go with this machine. You've got an original vise with the swivel base, appears to be anyway. You've got some little vise of some sort. You may find a use for it in your shop, but it doesn't go with this machine. This arbor. And there is an arbor on the machine, but this arbor, that taper is not appropriate. I don't know what that arbor fits, but I do not believe it's this machine. I could be mistaken, but I don't think so. That's something else taper that fits on something. Maybe that fits, although that looks awful big too for an Atlas. So stuff here that I either don't recognize or I'm going to say definitely does not go with this machine. Here's another drill press vise here. Set of V-blocks, clamp for a V-block. V-block there. I don't know what these collars are for. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Bunch of shit that they're throwing together and saying you're getting lots of extras with it. I don't see anything really here worth a whole lot of anything. There again, base machine is all you've got. Base machine with a vise. I'd looked at these pictures a little bit closer. If you're interested at all, you can go back and make your own decisions. You know enough if you've watched these for very long to know a lot of the things that you're looking for and a lot of things that you're not. Somebody's welded up stand, probably a pretty nice stand actually, but there again, if you're going for originality, this is not it. This cover on the earlier machines had a knob here and it hinged open, so you had access to the inside. There's a spring-loaded clip that held it closed. Now I'm not sure if all of the later machines they fixed this cover on, or if this was just done on some. Maybe it's appropriate, maybe it's not. But anyway, it looks kind of odd to me. On-off switch. And I mean, the machine's been beat around. All of these machines have been beat around. I was having a little bit of a discussion with a guy this morning. We were talking about the power feeds for these mills, and he'd said this gentleman had said that he had problems. Found out he had problems with a gear up in the gear mechanism up in here, and thought that might be common. Wear and tear on these machines is not common. It's just normal after, in certain areas as far as weakness of the machine. Most of these things are not a weak point in the machines. It's just they're 50, 75 years old and they've just got wear and tear over the years. You know, really the only exception I see to that is the gearboxes themselves will wear out. You're going to get the normal wear things after this many years that the Zamac parts are starting to deteriorate, a lot of them, just from the environment they've been kept in. But the only thing that I really see as a main problem on these machines, as far as power feed components for the mills and the shapers especially, is on the shaper on that power feed box, and that's only because people have run them to the end of their travel and something's going to let go. And when these were originally produced, why that Zamac housing was the thing that was the weak link. They were cheap and inexpensive to replace, and they were probably designed to actually break like that. So it's just now, this 50 or 75 years later, when it's really hard to find those parts, that people are now saying, well, that was a weak point on it. Well, it really wasn't. It was abuse that caused them to break to start with, and back then they were cheap. Now they're not cheap. So let's see, this looks to still only have the two-step pulley on it, but it's got the larger belts. The early MFs had only had a two-step pulley here on this counter shaft, but they were the smaller belt size. And this, of course, is where the coolant feed or coolant support for the tank, depending on how you were running, that's where that was mounted, was right there. And there we go. So there again, back to the same old thing. Worth $2,149. Now it's worth $1,000, so, something like that. Anyway, now this one is interesting here, slightly interesting. Here's a vintage Atlas Change-O-Matic MF horizontal milling machine, working pre-owned. They want $1,200 or best offer. Now the MF is what my machine is. We've seen it in the things, but there's several things, and this is a new seller, relatively new seller. Got a little bit of feedback here, and it says machine in great condition and still runs great. Okay, well, you know, little old lady only drove it on Sundays to church, but we'll just look at the big pictures and kind of look it over. Now, this machine is missing some stuff, some small stuff, but I think this would be good bones to work from. Is it worth $1,200? I don't know. I kind of doubt it. But now this is going to be a later model, early model MF. So it's got the overarm on it. It's missing the correct knobs to lock the overarm support in place. And maybe it's this one that had the shop built kick out on it. The other one may have an original kick out. I think this was the one that showed the, so I think I was mistaken there earlier. But nonetheless, I think that's probably a shop built kick out. Wiring looks like crap. It's been repainted, and it's not a real pretty machine. There's some flaking on it and things like that, but there's some interesting things to note here. Now, this will also be a later machine because it has the spring-loaded knob. So there again, my earlier MF just has a spring-loaded plunger, and you don't have a knob that you pull out. You just shift it, and it's got spring tension on it. I think they probably decided that was not positive enough to hold them in gear, and they added the plunger and the spring-loaded detent, and I think the knob's gone. You do have an arbor. You've got the arbor driver on there. I believe there's a drawbar in the back. Now, the one thing that I would like to see is I'd like to see one more picture of the other side of this machine to be looking at the guards from the end. I know what it is, but there's not a good enough picture to really explain it. So everything looks relatively complete on this machine. We'll come back to the guards, but you can see the flaking of the paint. I mean, it's got a crappy paint job on it and things like that. But I think this might be a good candidate for a restoration for an early model machine. I think this would be a pretty cool machine to have for the right amount of money. Yeah, this is a shop built kick out on it. Missing the knob here, but the handles or the knobs look to be originals. That's not the correct handle. Wiring's kind of taped up there with that roll of electrical tape, you know, and it's, like I say, got a crappy paint job on it, but I think it's pretty much complete. Looks fairly decent. So early early model tapered shank. The later model machines that you can run an overarm support on, this is a straight shank here. This doesn't have a taper. It's got the same taper as this, or the same style taper as this one here. For the elevation knob, there's that same taper on this one. And you have to have the straight one to be able to run arbor support. Plus you also have to have the later casting up here that's drilled and tapped. You can see here, this looks like it's somebody's little crappy plastic knob or something that they put on there. So that's not original to it, but otherwise it looks okay. This is where, there again, where your coolant system mounted to. What else do we got here? Nothing else really jumps out at me, but I think it's basically a fairly complete machine. Now, these guards, this will be a 401A is what I believe this guard is. And we can tell better from the other side, or have a better idea of how it went. There's the 401, and the side guard will be a 402. And then there's this will be a 401A. Standard 401 was different in regards to how it interacted with this lower casting, with the B casting. The 401s were a casting that ended here, that it would be cut here, or cut off, and this portion would be attached to this lower casting. So you would have a 401 here and a 402 here. The 402A is this one, I believe, which comes over and covers the top pulley, and the 402A is this casting here that ends right here. And then the 402B is hinged right here rather than clamping on solid. And this will be the next generation would be a 402B or a 401B and a 402B here, and this would hinge open. And the B's were a larger castings all the way around. Both those castings were a larger casting. So hopefully, I've kind of covered castings before. Hopefully that helps clear it a little bit more, but it's still probably a little confusing yet. So otherwise, I think this machine might be a decent machine. It's missing the knob here. See how I said that it's hinged here and got a spring clip here that holds it closed. And that opens up, lets you get in there and lube up that gear in there, or the gears that are inside there. So, but missing that knob. But all in all, this looks to be a good solid base for a machine. There again, later model, it's got the casting with the cover on the back that would accommodate the cooling system, or the coolant pump in there, that you don't see very many of. I do see that these are the two screw holes that come through from the bottom that hold the spring clip on. Missing a rivet there, but those are not big things. I think this might be a decent machine for a restoration. Probably a later model MF. Worth $1,200? Not to me. Be worth about, this day and age, about $750, maybe $8. But that's all. And I do see, I believe, the seller's selling a few other things too. But I'm going to skip a lot of this stuff. There was a lot of these are parts. They're parting out these machines. If we can keep from buying parts at these exorbitant prices, they'll bring them down. Now, here's one that is total ripoff. Atlas milling machine, rare coolant cutting fluid pump, rare, with lots and lots of exclamation marks. They want $1,000 for it and $25 shipping. Now this is a guy that I'm seeing starting to part out machines. He's got a little bit of feedback, but it looks to be he's parting out machines. And this is an original coolant pump. It looks to be complete. The only real reason to put one of these on is if you want a original style pump, or if you want to use that onboard pump. Most people are not doing that nowadays, just because it kind of leaves a mess in the sump of the mill, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. It's most people, me included, for the most part, are using either just a mist coolant system or something where we can run a pump separate from that, drain into a different coolant container and pump right out of there. If I would put together assembly, I might set up something like that, but I still don't know that I would actually I would pump out of that sump. I don't know that that's the best thing in the world to be doing. But it is extremely rare and the only one I've ever seen. Well, I've seen them before. The pump, motor, and fluid adjusting arms appear to be all original, and I believe it is all original. The motor and everything looks to be, it's kind of like motors. Motors you can at least do a little bit with if you've got a original motor, and if you want to go to the expense, you can have them rebuilt and stuff. On something like this old and everything, why do you want to screw around with a 65-year-old, 50, 60-year-old pump, 70-year-old pump, and motor that have been exposed to a wet environment with the coolant and everything, probably oil, probably grunged up? There's no way I'm going to spend $1,000. If I wanted an original one and I was really hunting, I might give $200 for that. But there's no way in hell, and we'll just show the big pictures here. It is complete. It's got the overarms. You're going to replace the hoses. They're going to be junk. It does have an original switch and a switch plate here and everything. It's kind of a cool setup, but it's no way worth $1,000. Now, just for informational purposes, this bracket that mounts on the headstock, and there's one on my mill because I put one on my mill. This is the same casting as the lead screw support on the end of the Atlas 6-inch lathe. Exact same thing, except it's drilled and tapped for quarter 20 here for the top knob to adjust the shaft going through. So that's the only differences between the 6-inch arbor support or lead screw support and this bracket here is that hole drilled and tapped in the top. So there's ways to do that too if you don't have an original, and mine's not an original one. So there's a picture of the pump setup and everything. I mean, it's a cool setup, but it's not worth that money. So there we go. And I think that's about all I've got today to be looking at. There's a few other parts. You get on down and they've got castings and shit that they can't sell that they want. Here's a 7B S7-102 side cover guard. They want $350 for this. We just talked about this. I sell this one for $140. And they want $350 for it. It's an original guard, but it's nothing spectacular. In today's market, if you want an original one, it's worth $150. That's all it is. $350, and this is from a seller that is noted for way overpricing you. And I think right below it here, yep, same seller. He has a horizontal mill M1-401 spindle belt guard. Now, this is the guard that was on the one mill that we just talked about. And this one's been cut out here. I don't know why they've cut it out here, but this is actually a smaller guard than what you see on most of the machines, on the later machines. This is going to be the same size guard as is on my MF, but it's quite a bit smaller, and this one does not hinge. This doesn't accept the hinged one. On mine, this whole section is removed, and this section is replaced with the lower guard that extends up there, and it clamps on. But this is the 401A. But yeah, this is not a factory cutout. This has been cut out to accommodate something. Something. So you've got a guard that's been modified, and they still want $220 for it. Version A, which was made of very fragile cast iron. Later units where the Model B were made with aluminum and have a slightly different cut. This will fit any Atlas mill that was designed specifically for the first generation. So yeah, unless I think I've been talking to a guy that I'm working on a set of guards for right now that I believe he just got taken in by by somebody doing this exact same thing. He ended up with I believe a 401A guard, which is not what he wanted for his machine at all. Not even close. So, yeah, and that's part of the problem you run into. You see these listings here, and they will say, oh, this fits this and this, and you kind of get in a panic because you think, I'm not going to be able to find one. So you tip over and spend your money, and then you got something that's not going to work for you at all. So that's unfortunate. So hopefully we can change that a little bit by giving you a little more information. Anyway, that's all I see that's worth looking at today. Hopefully you find a little bit of information there useful. I think there's a few things that are at least worth looking at just for informational purposes, which is, I think, mainly why we do this. So I'm going to end it right here. Comment suggestions, guys, leave them in the comments section for me below. Be careful on buying this shit, and thanks for taking the time to watch.